The sound of the slap echoed through the luxurious apartment like a gunshot. Chidera froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips, as she watched Obinna's hand connect with his wife's face for the second time. Amara stumbled backward, crashing into the glass coffee table, her designer dress torn at the shoulder, mascara streaming down her cheeks like black rivers of humiliation. "Obinna, stop!" Chidera heard herself scream, but her voice sounded distant, foreign, as if someone else was speaking through her body. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not in front of her. When Obinna had invited her to his penthouse in Victoria Island, Lagos, she thought it would be another one of their secret evenings, champagne and promises, stolen kisses, and whispered plans about their future together. She didn't know his wife would show up unannounced. She definitely didn't know she would witness this. Amara looked up from the floor, blood trickling from her split lip, her eyes meeting Chidera's with an expression that would haunt Chidera's dreams for months to come. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even surprise. It was pity. Pure, devastating pity directed at the other woman who thought she had won. "You think you're special?" Amara whispered, her voice barely audible but cutting through the tension like a blade. "You think you're the first? The only one?" She laughed, a broken, hollow sound that made Chidera's skin crawl. "Wait until you become the wife. Then you'll understand." Obinna raised his hand again, and something inside Chidera shattered. This wasn't the man she knew, the charming businessman who quoted poetry and promised her the world. This was a monster wearing his face. "Get out," Obinna snarled at his wife, not even looking at Chidera anymore. "Get out of my house before I forget I'm a civilized man." Amara struggled to her feet, dignity wrapped around her like armor despite her injuries. She picked up her handbag with trembling hands, and as she walked toward the door, she paused next to Chidera. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with blood filled Chidera's nostrils. "My lawyer will contact you within 48 hours, Amara said quietly, looking directly at her husband. "And you," she turned to Chidera, "when you're ready to talk, and you'll be ready, ask around Victoria Island for Amara Okonkwo. Everyone knows where to find me." The door closed behind her with a soft click that seemed louder than any slam could have been. Obinna turned to Chidera with that familiar charming smile, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just brutalized his wife in front of his mistress. "Baby, I'm sorry you had to see that. She's always been dramatic. You know how these wives can be when they're being replaced." But Chidera couldn't stop staring at the blood on the white marble floor, couldn't stop hearing the sound of flesh hitting flesh, couldn't stop seeing that look of pity in Amara's eyes. In that moment, standing in the luxurious apartment she had once dreamed of calling home, Chidera realized she had made a terrible mistake. And worse, she realized that Amara's words carried a warning she was only beginning to understand. What Chidera didn't know was that walking out that door, Amara wasn't broken. She was planning. And her revenge would be so complete, so devastating, that both Obinna and Chidera would wish they had never met. 3 days passed before Chidera could bring herself to leave her small apartment in Lekki Phase 1. She had called in sick to her job at the marketing firm, ignoring Obinna's 17 calls and countless text messages that swung wildly between apologies and anger. Each time her phone buzzed, she saw Amara's face, heard that sickening sound, felt the weight of her own complicity settling on her shoulders like cement. Her best friend, Ngozi, sat across from her on the worn sofa they had bought together from a second-hand shop 3 years ago, before Obinna, before everything changed. Ngozi had been against the relationship from the start, had warned her that married men don't leave their wives, especially not wealthy married men like Obinna Okonkwo, CEO of Okonkwo Enterprises. "So, what are you going to do?" Ngozi asked, stirring her tea slowly, her eyes fixed on Chidera with concern. Chidera pulled her knees to her chest. "I don't know. I keep thinking about what Amara said, about asking around for her, about talking when I'm ready." "You're not seriously considering meeting with that woman?" Ngozi's eyes widened. "Chidera, she's his wife. She probably wants to confront you properly, maybe even hurt you." "You didn't see her face, Ngozi. She wasn't angry at me. She was warning me." Chidera's voice dropped to a whisper. What if I'm not the first? What if there have been others? Before Ngozi could respond, Chidera's phone lit up again. But this time, it wasn't Obinna. It was an unknown number with a message that made her blood run cold. Ms. Chidera Adeyemi, this is Barrister Akoli from Akoli and Associates. Mrs. Amara Okonkwo has requested a private meeting with you. No legal action, no confrontation. Just conversation. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Cafe Neo in Victoria Island. She asks that you come alone. She says you deserve to know the truth before you make your next decision. Chidera's hands shook as she showed the message to Ngozi. This is insane, Ngozi said. It could be a trap. But Chidera was already thinking about that look in Amara's eyes, that pity mixed with something else. Knowledge. Experience. A warning from someone who had walked this path before. The next afternoon, Chidera found herself sitting in the upscale cafe, her heart hammering against her ribs. Amara arrived exactly on time, wearing large sunglasses that couldn't quite hide the fading bruise on her cheekbone. She was elegant in a navy blue dress, her natural hair styled perfectly, looking nothing like the broken woman from 3 nights ago. Thank you for coming, Amara said softly, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes were kind, impossibly kind, and that somehow made everything worse. Why did you want to see me? Chidera's voice came out stronger than she felt. Amara ordered 2 cappuccinos before speaking. Because 12 years ago, I was you. I was the mistress who thought I was special, who thought I was different from his wife. Her name was Blessing. She tried to warn me too. I didn't listen. Chidera's world tilted. What? Obinna doesn't have a type. He has a pattern, Amara continued, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. He finds young, ambitious women, usually in their 20s, usually working in industries where he has connections. He promises them the world, makes them feel chosen, special. Then, when they become inconvenient or too demanding, or when someone new catches his eye, the mask slips. But you stayed. You married him after being the other woman? Amara's laugh was bitter. I was pregnant, and I was young and foolish, and thought a ring would change him. It didn't. There was Jennifer 2 years after our wedding. Then Blessing number 2, different woman, same name. Then Grace. Then Adiz. Then you. Chidera felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Amara leaned forward, her eyes intense. Because I'm done. I'm divorcing him, and I'm going to make sure he loses everything. His reputation, his business connections, his standing in society. But I need your help. My help? Why would I help you? Because revenge isn't just about me anymore, Amara said quietly. She pulled out her phone and showed Chidera a photograph. 3 other women, all young, all beautiful, all looking at the camera with the same defeated expression. These are the others. I found them, talked to them. We all have stories. We all have evidence. Text messages, photos, financial records of apartments he rented, gifts he bought. But we need one more thing. What? We need the current mistress to testify that he's still the same man, that he hasn't changed, that his pattern continues. It will destroy any sympathy he might get in court or in the media. Amara's voice dropped. I saw how you looked at him after he hit me. You saw the real him. Most mistresses never do until they become the wife. Chidera's mind raced. 24 hours ago, she thought she was in love. Now she was sitting across from a woman offering her a chance at justice or revenge or maybe both. I need time to think, Chidera whispered. Amara stood, placing a business card on the table. You have 48 hours. After that, we proceed without you. But Chidera, she paused at the door. He called someone new last night. Her name is Folake. She works at Sterling Bank. You're already being replaced. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too hot, too real. And in that moment, Chidera made a decision that would change everything. If you're watching this and you've ever had to make a difficult choice between loyalty and justice, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted wasn't who you thought they were? Your stories might help someone else going through the same thing. And if this story is keeping you hooked, hit that subscribe button because what happens next will shock you even more. Chidera spent the next 2 days doing something she should have done a year ago: investigating. She started with Obinna's social media, then moved to Google, then to the whisper networks every woman knows how to access when she needs the truth. What she found made her stomach turn. Obinna Okonkwo wasn't just a serial cheater. He was a predator with a system. Each woman followed the same trajectory: met at a professional event or through business, courted with expensive gifts and future promises, installed in a modest apartment in Lekki or Victoria Island, kept secret for 6 to 18 months, then discarded when the novelty wore off or complications arose. But it was the private Facebook group that changed everything. Ngozi had a cousin who worked in banking circles, and through 3 degrees of separation, Chidera found herself added to a closed group called 6 Survivors. 23 women, all with stories about Obinna. Some had screenshots. Others had voice notes. A few had hospital records. Grace Musa, a lawyer from Abuja, had been pushed down a flight of stairs when she threatened to tell his wife. Jennifer Okafor, a fashion designer, had lost a major contract after Obinna made calls to ensure she couldn't work in Lagos. Adiz Nwosu had attempted suicide after he convinced her she was crazy for questioning his absences. Chidera read through the night, tears streaming down her face, mourning not just for herself, but for all of them. For the dreams he had stolen, the confidence he had shattered, the lives he had derailed. At 6 a.m., she called Amara. "I'm in," she said simply. "Tell me what you need me to do." Amara's plan was methodical and devastating. Over the next 2 weeks, Chidera would continue seeing Obinna, but this time, she would document everything. Their conversations, his promises, his lies. More importantly, she would wear a wire during their meetings. Amara had hired a private investigator, a sharp woman named Kemi, who specialized in matrimonial cases. The goal isn't just divorce, Amara explained during their second meeting, this time in her lawyer's office. The goal is complete exposure. I want him to lose his business partnerships, his social standing, his ability to do this to anyone else. Barrister Akoli, a stern woman in her 50s, nodded. We're building a case that goes beyond infidelity. We're documenting a pattern of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and in some cases, physical violence. With testimony from multiple women across several years, we can paint a picture that even his expensive lawyers can't whitewash. Chidera's role was crucial. As the current mistress, her testimony would prove that Obinna hadn't changed, wasn't remorseful, was still actively deceiving and manipulating. But more than that, Amara wanted Chidera to help them find Folake before Obinna could sink his hooks too deep. It took 3 days of careful social media stalking before Chidera found her. Folake Adebayo, 26, assistant manager at Sterling Bank's Ikoyi branch, recent MBA graduate, ambitious and beautiful. Her Instagram showed a woman on the rise, posting motivational quotes and pictures from banking conferences. And there, in a photo from a week ago, barely visible in the background, was Obinna. She doesn't know yet, Chidera said, showing Amara the photo. Look at her body language. She's interested but cautious. He hasn't made his full move. Amara stared at the photo for a long moment. Then we warn her. Directly. Before he can spin his web. That evening, Chidera created a fake Instagram account and sent Folake a message. You don't know me, but we have someone in common. Obinna Okonkwo. Before you get in too deep, there are things you should know. Things that could save you a lot of pain. If you're willing to listen, meet me at Cafe Neo tomorrow at noon. I'll be wearing a red scarf. You won't regret it. To their surprise, Folake responded within an hour. How do I know this isn't some kind of trap? Chidera replied, because I'm the woman he's with now, and I wish someone had warned me. Your choice. But tomorrow might be your only chance. The next morning, Chidera sat in the same cafe where Amara had revealed the truth to her, wearing a red scarf, her heart pounding. Folake arrived at 12:15, looking nervous and defiant in equal measure. You have 15 minutes, Folake said, sitting down but keeping her bag on her lap, ready to flee. Chidera didn't waste time. She showed her phone. Screenshots of Obinna's messages, photos of them together, text exchanges where he called Folake, the one I've been waiting for, identical to messages he'd sent Chidera months before. He's married, Chidera said quietly. But that's not even the worst part. She showed Folake the Facebook group, the hospital records, the pattern spanning 12 years. With each piece of evidence, Folake's defiance crumbled, replaced by something Chidera recognized, the crushing weight of betrayal. I thought. Folake's voice broke. He said his marriage was over, that he was only staying for appearances, that I was different. That's what he tells everyone, Chidera said gently. And here's the thing, he's going to keep doing this. To you, to me, to whoever comes after us. Unless we stop him.
How?
Folake looked up, and Chidera saw something new in her eyes. Not just hurt. Anger. Before Chidera could answer, her phone buzzed. A message from Obinna. Baby, we need to talk. Come to the penthouse tonight. I have a surprise for you. Chidera's blood ran cold. She showed the message to Folake, whose face went pale. I got the same message, Folake whispered, pulling out her phone. Same words. Same time. The two women stared at each other across the table, the horrifying truth settling between them. Obinna had invited both his current mistresses to the same place at the same time. Either he was careless, or worse, this was intentional. Another game. Another manipulation. We need to call Amara, Chidera said, her hand shaking. Right now. What they didn't know was that Amara had already anticipated this move. And what she had planned for that evening would bring Obinna's entire world crashing down in ways none of them could imagine. But first, they had to survive the trap he was setting. Amara arrived at the cafe within 20 minutes, accompanied by Kemi the private investigator and Barrister Akoli. The 5 women huddled around a corner table, their faces grim as they analyzed Obinna's message. He knows, Kemi said flatly, studying both phones. Or, he suspects something. Men like him don't invite 2 mistresses to the same location by accident. This is either a power play or a test. What kind of test? Folake asked, her voice barely steady. Barrister Akoli leaned forward. He wants to see who's loyal, who'll come running when he calls. Or he's planning to orchestrate some dramatic confrontation where he plays victim and both of you compete for his attention. It reinforces his control. Chidera felt sick. Even now, even knowing everything, part of her had wanted to believe there was some explanation, some way this wasn't as calculated as it seemed. That hope died as she looked at Amara's knowing expression. I've seen this before, Amara said quietly. Not from him specifically, but it's in the playbook. 3 years ago, he invited both me and Jennifer to the same restaurant. Different tables, different times, but overlapping. He wanted to watch us see each other, wanted to feed on the drama. When I confronted him, he acted shocked, blamed his assistant, made me feel crazy for suspecting. So, what do we do? Chidera asked. Ignore the message? No. Amara's eyes gleamed with something sharp and calculating. We use it. Kemi, can you get surveillance equipment set up in the penthouse? Kemi shook her head. Not without access or warning. But I can wire both of them with audio and video. Small cameras, nearly invisible. Everything he says and does will be recorded. That's illegal without consent, Barrister Akoli warned. We can't use it in court. We're not planning to use it in court, Amara said, a small smile playing at her lips. We're going to use it in the court of public opinion. Chidera, Folake, I need you both to trust me. Go to the penthouse tonight, as he asked. Act normal. Confused when you see each other, but not confrontational. Let him direct the scene. Let him show you exactly who he is. You want us to walk into a trap? Folake's voice rose. Are you insane? I want you to spring the trap, Amara corrected. But not on yourselves. On him. Because while you two are there, I'll be in the lobby with a camera crew from Lagos today. We're going to broadcast this live. The table fell silent. You can't be serious, Chidera whispered. That would destroy him. That's the point, Amara said, her voice hard as steel. Chidera, you saw what he did to me. Folake, you read what he did to the others. How many more women have to be hurt before we stop him? The legal system moves slowly. Divorce could take years. He has money and connections. But public exposure? That's instant. That's permanent. That's justice. But it would destroy us too, Folake pointed out. We'd be exposed as the other women. Our reputations, our careers. Which is why we control the narrative, Barrister Akoli interjected. We frame this as an exposé on predatory behavior. You're not homewreckers. You're victims who were deceived. We have documentation showing his pattern, proving this is about him, not you. And we have 12 other women ready to come forward once the story breaks. Kemi pulled out 2 small devices no bigger than buttons. These attach to your clothing. Audio and video streams directly to my laptop. I'll be in a car outside the building. If anything goes wrong, if you feel unsafe at any moment, you say the word stop and I'm calling the police. Chidera looked at Folake. 2 weeks ago, they were strangers. Now, they were allies in something that felt bigger than both of them. She could see her own fear reflected in the younger woman's eyes, but also something else. Determination. Anger. The need for this to mean something. I'll do it, Chidera said. But I want one thing in return. What? Amara asked. After tonight, you help me find Blessing. The first wife. The one who tried to warn you. She deserves to know that this time, someone listened. Amara's eyes filled with tears for the first time since Chidera had met her. She died 4 years ago. Breast cancer. She was only 38. The weight of that revelation hung in the air. But I can introduce you to her sister. She's been waiting a long time to see Obinna face consequences. Folake nodded slowly. I'm in too. But I have a condition as well. When this is over, that Facebook group becomes something bigger. A real support network. With resources. Therapy. Legal help. So the next woman doesn't have to go through this alone. Done, Amara said. Both conditions. Agreed. At 7:45 p.m., Chidera stood outside Obinna's penthouse building, the tiny camera hidden in her necklace, her heart racing. Folake arrived 5 minutes later, and they exchanged a brief look of solidarity before entering the elevator separately. When Chidera knocked on the door, Obinna answered wearing an expensive suit and his most charming smile. Baby, I'm so glad you came. We need to talk about. He stopped mid-sentence as the elevator dinged and Folake stepped into the hallway. His expressions cycled through surprise, confusion, then settled into something cold and calculating. Not embarrassment. Not guilt. Just cold calculation. Well, he said smoothly, stepping aside to let them both see into the apartment. I suppose the surprise is ruined. Ladies, please come in. Let's talk like adults. And as both women stepped across that threshold, in the lobby 17 floors below, Amara stood in front of a camera crew, her hands steady, her voice clear, about to tell Lagos a story that would make headlines for months. The trap wasn't for Chidera and Folake. It was for Obinna. And he had just walked right into it. What they didn't know was that Obinna had one more card to play. And in the next 30 minutes, someone's life would change forever in ways that none of them had planned for. The penthouse felt different tonight. Colder. The floor-to-ceiling windows that usually showcase Lagos's glittering skyline now felt like walls closing in. Chidera and Folake stood awkwardly in the living room, the same room where Amara had been struck, neither woman willing to sit. Obinna poured himself a whiskey, his movements deliberate and calm. Too calm. I assume you two have met, he said casually, as if introducing colleagues at a business lunch. Or perhaps you orchestrated this little meeting yourselves? You sent us both the same message, Folake said, her voice shaking but defiant. Same time. Same place. Did I? Obinna's eyebrows raised in mock surprise. How careless of me. Or perhaps his voice hardened. Someone has been meddling in my affairs. Someone bitter and vindictive who can't accept that our marriage is over. You beat her, Chidera heard herself say. I watched you beat your wife in this room. Obinna's smile vanished. He set down his glass with deliberate care and walked toward Chidera until he was standing too close, invading her space. She could smell his cologne, the same scent she used to find intoxicating. Now it made her nauseous. I disciplined my wife for disrespecting me in my own home, he said softly, dangerously. She came here uninvited, made a scene, attacked me. I defended myself. But she's been filling your head with lies, hasn't she? Both of you. He turned to include Folake. Let me guess. She told you about other women. Showed you some Facebook group of bitter exes who can't move on. Painted me as some kind of monster. We saw the evidence, Folake said. Hospital records. Text messages. Years of. Evidence can be fabricated, Obinna interrupted smoothly. Screenshots can be photoshopped. Women lie, especially women who are jealous and desperate. Think about it logically. I'm a successful businessman. Why would I risk everything for some pattern of behavior? It makes no sense. And there it was, Chidera realized. The gaslighting in real time. The way he made you question your own eyes, your own judgment, made you wonder if maybe you were being unreasonable, emotional, irrational. This was how he'd kept them all quiet for so long. We're not stupid, Chidera said firmly. And we're not doing this anymore. Obinna's expression shifted again, this time to something uglier. Doing what exactly? Are you breaking up with me, Chidera? Because, let's be clear about what that means. The apartment you're living in? I pay for that. The job you have? I made one call to get you that position. Your entire life in Lagos exists because I allow it to exist. And you, he turned to Folake, you think Sterling Bank is going to keep an assistant manager who's sleeping with married clients? One word from me, and you're back in Ibadan living with your parents. Is that a threat? Folake asked. It's reality, Obinna said coldly. You want to know why those other women are so bitter? Because they tried to play games with me and lost. They tried to threaten me, expose me, ruin me. And where are they now? Irrelevant. Forgotten. Struggling. Because I have power in this city and you have nothing. Chidera felt the camera against her chest, recording every word, every threat, every mask slipping away. She thought of Amara downstairs, of the camera crew waiting, of all the women in that Facebook group who had heard these same threats and buckled under them. You're right, Chidera said quietly. You do have power. Money. Connections. Everything we don't have. Obinna smiled, sensing victory. Finally, you're being sensible. But you're wrong about one thing, Chidera continued. We're not alone anymore. And we're not playing your game. The smile faltered. What are you talking about? Before Chidera could answer, Obinna's phone rang. He glanced at it, frowned, and answered.
What? Slow down.
What do you mean there are cameras in my lobby? His face went pale. Lagos today? Why would?
No.
No, don't let them. I don't care what she says. Get them out of my building. He ended the call and turned to the women, his hand shaking with rage. What have you done? We've told the truth, Folake said simply. Everything.
Right now.
Your wife is downstairs giving an interview about your pattern of abuse. And everything you've said tonight? We've recorded it. The threats. The admission that you control our jobs, our housing. All of it. For the first time since Chidera had known him, Obinna looked genuinely afraid. He lunged for Chidera, grabbing at her necklace. You're wearing a wire? You recorded me in my own home. Chidera stumbled backward, and Folake stepped between them. Don't touch her. We're leaving. And if you try to stop us, that's assault on camera. Obinna's face twisted with fury. You stupid girls. You have no idea what you've done. I'll destroy you. Both of you. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I'll tell everyone you're blackmailers, con artists. You'll what? A new voice came from the doorway. They all turned to see Amara standing there, flanked by 2 security guards and a camera operator. Continue threatening them? Please do. We're live streaming everything to 50,000 viewers right now. Obinna's mouth opened and closed like a fish. This is illegal. This is harassment. This is over, Amara said firmly. The interview is already viral. Your business partners are watching. Your friends at the yacht club are watching. Your mother is watching. Everyone is hearing about Jennifer, Grace, Adi's blessing. Everyone is seeing who you really are. Chidera watched as Obinna's entire world collapsed in real time. His phone started buzzing incessantly. Text after text. Call after call. His face went from red to pale to gray. "Get out," he whispered. "All of you. Get out of my house." As they walked toward the door, Amara turned back. "The divorce papers will be delivered tomorrow. I'm taking 50% of everything, plus compensation for years of abuse. Don't bother fighting it. Your lawyers already told you that going to court would mean more publicity. Take the deal, disappear quietly, and maybe you can salvage some tiny piece of your reputation." They left him standing in his penthouse, surrounded by luxury and completely alone, as his phone continued to ring with calls he would never want to answer. In the elevator riding down, Chidera, Folake, and Amara stood in silence. Then, simultaneously, all three women exhaled, the tension releasing in a collective breath that became laughter, then tears, then something in between. "Is it really over?" Folake whispered. "The first part is," Amara said. "Now comes the healing. And making sure it never happens to anyone else." But as they stepped into the lobby where journalists were already waiting with questions, none of them noticed the black car parked across the street, or the man inside it taking photos, or the way he smiled when he made a phone call and said, "They did exactly what you said they would. Your brother won't know what hit him." Because while they had been focused on bringing down Obinna, someone else had been planning something far more dangerous. And the real revenge was only just beginning. This story is getting intense, isn't it? Have you ever had to stand up against someone powerful who is manipulating you? Drop a comment below and share your experience. And if you want to see how this revenge story gets even more complicated, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens in the next chapter. The game is far from over. The media storm was immediate and brutal. By morning, Obinna Okonkwo's face was plastered across every blog, newspaper, and social media platform in Lagos. The hashtag Okonkwo Exposed trended for 3 days straight. The video of his threats had been viewed over 2 million times. His business partners issued statements distancing themselves from him. 2 major contracts were cancelled. His country club membership was temporarily suspended. Chidera watched it all unfold from Ngozi's apartment, where she'd moved after Obinna's threats about her housing. True to his word, he tried to have her evicted, but Amara's lawyers had been faster, securing an injunction and filing harassment charges that made him back off. The Facebook group had exploded to over 200 members, women sharing their own stories of manipulation and abuse by powerful men across Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. Folake had quit her job at Sterling Bank before they could fire her and was now working with Amara and Barrister Akoli to establish a proper organization, Safe Harbor Initiative, a nonprofit offering legal aid, counseling, and protection for women escaping abusive relationships. It should have felt like victory. Instead, Chidera couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It started with small things. A car that seemed to follow her to the grocery store. Strange clicks on her phone line. The sense of being watched. She told herself it was paranoia, trauma response, the aftermath of everything that had happened. But then the letters started arriving. The first one came to Ngozi's address, which nobody except close friends knew. Plain envelope, no return address, neat handwriting. You should have left well enough alone. Some men have brothers who protect their interests. Chidera showed it to Amara immediately. They were having their weekly planning meeting for Safe Harbor at a restaurant in Ikeja when Chidera slid the letter across the table. Amara's face went white. "Chikwudi," she whispered. "Who?" "Obinna's older brother. He lives in Abuja. He's a politician, serves in the House of Representatives. He's even more connected than Obinna and much more dangerous." Amara pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "We need to call Kemi right now." But before she could dial, her own phone buzzed with a message. She looked at the screen and dropped it like it had burned her. Chidera picked it up and read, "Drop the divorce. Drop the organization. Disappear quietly, or your daughter pays the price." "Your daughter?" Chidera's blood ran cold. "Amara, I didn't know you had a—" "She's 9. Amara's voice broke. "Adora. She lives with my mother in Enugu." I kept her out of Lagos, away from Obinna, away from all of this. Nobody knows about her except family and close friends. How did he find out? Kemi arrived within the hour, her face grim. We have a problem. A big one. Chidera Okonkwo isn't just a politician, he's connected to some very dangerous people. He's currently under investigation by the EFCC for money laundering, but the case keeps getting stalled because of his influence. If he sees you three as a threat to his brother's reputation, and by extension his own political career, he'll come after us. Folake finished quietly. She'd been silent throughout the meeting, but now she pulled out her own phone. I got one too. This morning. It says they know where my parents live in Ibadan. That my father's tailoring business could easily burn down. The restaurant suddenly felt too open, too exposed. Chidera looked around at the other patrons, wondering if any of them were watching, reporting back, waiting. What do we do? She asked. We can't just let him threaten us into silence. We go to the police, Barrister Akoli said firmly. But even as she said it, her voice lacked conviction. The police? Amara laughed bitterly. Chidera has half the police force in his pocket. We'd be reporting to the same people who protect him. Then we go public again, Folake suggested. We expose the threats, show everyone what they're doing. And make ourselves bigger targets? Kemi shook her head. These aren't idle threats. I've done some digging. 3 years ago, a journalist was investigating Chidera for corruption. She had evidence, witnesses, everything. 2 days before her story was supposed to run, her house was broken into. She was hospitalized. The story never ran. The witnesses disappeared. The silence at the table was heavy with fear and realization. They had won the battle against Obinna, but they'd awakened something much worse. So, we're just supposed to give up? Chidera felt anger rising in her chest. After everything? After all those women finally felt brave enough to come forward? We just abandon them? I'm not saying give up, Kemi said carefully. I'm saying we need to be smart.
Strategic.
And we need protection. What kind of protection? Amara asked. Kemi leaned forward, lowering her voice. I have a contact. Former DSS agent, now runs a private security firm. He specializes in protecting whistleblowers and witnesses in high-profile cases. It's expensive, but... I don't care about the cost, Amara interrupted. If it keeps Adora safe, if it keeps all of us safe, I'll pay whatever it takes. They hired the security team that evening. Within 24 hours, Amara's daughter was moved to a secure location with round-the-clock protection. Folake's parents were relocated temporarily to Lagos, where they could be monitored. Chidera and Gozi got a security detail that made their small apartment feel like a fortress. But the threats didn't stop. They escalated. Photos of Amara's daughter at her new school, taken from a distance. A dead rat left on Folake's car windshield. Chidera's social media account hacked and filled with pornographic images that took hours to remove. The Women of Safe Harbor initiative started withdrawing their testimonies, too afraid of the backlash. The organization that had seemed so promising 3 weeks ago was crumbling under the weight of intimidation. On the 15th day after the first threat, Chidera received a phone call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Ms. Adeyemi. The voice was smooth, educated, dangerous. My name is Chidera Okonkwo. I believe we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Then just listen. My brother is a fool who let his personal life spiral out of control. But family is family. And when family is threatened, I protect them. Now you and your little friends have made your point. You've humiliated Obinna, cost him money and reputation. Consider that your revenge. But if you continue with this divorce, this organization, this crusade, then we have a problem. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Drop everything, accept a generous settlement, sign an NDA, and walk away. All 3 of you. I'll even sweeten the deal. 2 million naira each, new jobs outside of Lagos, fresh starts. Or, his voice hardened, you can keep fighting, and I promise you'll regret it. Not just you, but everyone you care about. Your friend Gozi works at Sterling Bank too, doesn't she? It would be a shame if her employment suddenly became complicated. And your parents in Asaba, they must be proud of their daughter in Lagos. Would they be proud if they knew what you've been doing? How you've been sleeping with married men? Chidera's hand shook so hard, she almost dropped the phone. You're a monster, just like your brother. I'm a realist. You have 48 hours to decide. Discuss it with Amara and Folake. I'll be in touch. The line went dead. That night, the three women met in Amara's lawyer's office, the only place they felt truly safe. They sat in the conference room that had become their war room, and for the first time since this all began, none of them had any idea what to do next. We can't fight him, Folake said quietly. He's too powerful, too connected. He'll destroy us. But if we stop now, it's all for nothing, Chidera argued. Every woman who came forward, every testimony, every moment of courage, it all disappears. And he wins. Maybe some battles can't be won, Amara said softly, and hearing the defeat in her voice was worse than any threat. Maybe we were naive to think we could take on men like this and survive. They sat in silence, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them. Outside, Lagos glittered with indifference, a city where power always won and girls who fought back always paid the price. But what none of them knew was that while they were wrestling with Chikwudi's ultimatum, someone else was making plans. Someone who had been watching this whole situation unfold with great interest. Someone who had their own reasons for wanting the Okonkwo brothers taken down. And in 48 hours, everything would change again in ways that none of them could possibly imagine. The answer came from the most unexpected source. 24 hours into Chikwudi's ultimatum, Chidera received a call from a number with an Abuja prefix. She almost didn't answer, assuming it was another threat. But something made her pick up. Ms. Adeyemi, my name is Blessing Okoro. I'm the sister of Blessing Okonkwo, the first wife who tried to warn Amara. Chidera's breath caught. How did you get this number? I've been following your story since it broke. I've been waiting 12 years for someone to finally stand up to that family. Blessing's voice was steady, professional. I'm an investigative journalist with premium times. And I have information about Chikwudi Okonkwo that could end his political career permanently. Within 2 hours, all three women were on a video call with Blessing, who appeared on screen from what looked like a hotel room, files and documents spread around her. My sister died believing she'd failed, Blessing began, her voice tight with emotion. She tried to warn Amara, tried to expose Obinna, but she was young and scared and alone. When she got sick, Obinna refused to pay her medical bills even though he'd promised to take care of her. She died in debt, in pain, believing she didn't matter. I've spent the last 4 years investigating the Okonkwo family, waiting for the right moment. You three just gave it to me. She held up a thick folder. Chikwudi Okonkwo has been embezzling government funds for infrastructure projects and funneling the money through shell companies. I have bank statements, emails, recorded phone conversations with contractors. Enough evidence to bury him for 20 years. The EFCC investigation has been stalled because he's been paying off key officials, but I have proof of those payments too. Why haven't you published this already? Amara asked. Because I needed corroboration from someone on the inside, someone willing to testify. And I finally found him, Obinna's former business partner, a man named Tund Adabizi. Chikwudi used Obinna's company to launder some of the stolen money. Tund kept records. When Obinna's scandal broke, Tund realized he could be next on the chopping block, so he reached out to me. Blessing leaned closer to the camera. Here's what I'm proposing. You three continue with your divorce, your organization, your mission. Don't let Chikwudi intimidate you. Meanwhile, I publish my investigation. Once he's dealing with federal charges and a media storm of his own, he won't have time or resources to come after you. His protection network will abandon him to save themselves. That's incredibly risky, Barrister Akoli warned. If the timing doesn't work perfectly, if something goes wrong with your story, these women are exposed and vulnerable. Which is why we coordinate everything, Blessing said. I have a contact at the EFCC who's clean, who's been frustrated by the corruption blocking the investigation. The moment my story drops, he moves in with arrests before Chikwudi can run or destroy evidence. It has to be simultaneous and overwhelming. Chidera looked at Amara and Folake. 3 women who'd been strangers 6 weeks ago, now bound together by trauma and purpose and a choice that would define the rest of their lives. "What do you think?" Chidera asked them. Folake spoke first. "My whole life, I've watched powerful men get away with everything while women suffer in silence. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm in." Amara was quiet for a long moment, staring at a photo of her daughter on her phone. "My daughter is 9 years old. In 9 more years, she'll be 18. I don't want her growing up in a world where men like Obinna and Chidera face no consequences, where speaking up means being destroyed." She looked up, her eyes fierce. "Publish the story. We'll stand our ground." Chidera felt something settle in her chest. Not peace exactly, but certainty. "Let's finish this." The next 72 hours were a choreographed storm. Blessing's investigation dropped on a Wednesday morning, front page of Premium Times and simultaneously picked up by every major news outlet. The headline read, "House of Representatives member embezzled 4.2 billion naira in infrastructure scam." The article laid out everything: bank statements, shell companies, recorded conversations, testimony from Tund Adabizi. By noon, the FCC had moved in with arrest warrants. Photos of Chidera being led away in handcuffs went viral within minutes. His political allies issued statements condemning him. The same police force that had protected him suddenly couldn't move fast enough to investigate him. And while Lagos watched Chidera's empire crumble, Amara filed her final divorce papers. The settlement was massive, half of everything Obinna owned, plus an additional 50 million naira in compensation for years of abuse. Obinna, now isolated without his brother's protection and facing his own investigation for money laundering, signed without contest. Safe Harbor Initiative relaunched with new funding, a proper office, and a waiting list of women seeking help. Folake became the executive director. Amara served as board chair. Chidera ran the outreach program, traveling to universities and companies to talk about recognizing manipulation and abuse. The Facebook group evolved into a registered nonprofit network with chapters in 6 Nigerian cities. Grace, the lawyer who'd been pushed downstairs, ran the Lagos legal clinic. Jennifer, the fashion designer, created a job training program. Adiz, who'd attempted suicide, became a peer counselor specializing in trauma recovery. 3 months after everything had begun, Chidera stood in the new Safe Harbor office in Ikeja, looking at the wall where they'd hung photos of all the women who'd contributed their stories. In the center was a photo of Blessing Okonkwo, the first wife, who hadn't lived to see justice, but whose sister had made sure her death meant something. "You thinking about him?" Ngozi asked, joining her with 2 cups of tea. "Which one?" Chidera smiled wryly. "The man I thought I loved or the monster he actually was?"
Either.
"Both." Chidera considered the question. "I think about how close I came to being another Amara. Another woman spending years trapped with someone who saw her as property. I think about Folake, how young she was, how her whole life could have been derailed. And I think about all the women who aren't as lucky as we were, who don't have an Amara or a Blessing or each other. That's why we do this," Ngozi said simply. The office door opened and Amara walked in with Adora, who'd recently moved back to Lagos now that it was safe. The 9-year-old ran immediately to the children's corner they'd set up, already making friends with another visitor's daughter. "Chidera's trial starts next month," Amara announced. 23 counts of corruption, embezzlement, and fraud. His lawyers are saying he'll get 15 years minimum. "And Obinna?" Folake asked, emerging from her office. "Last I heard, he moved to Ghana. Started over with a new name and a fake story about being widowed. Someone should probably warn the women there." Amara's smile was grim. "But he'll never show his face in Lagos again. His company dissolved. His assets frozen. His reputation destroyed. It's not prison, but it's something. It's more than most men like him ever face," Chidera said. That evening, the 3 women had dinner together as they did every week, a ritual they'd established to remind themselves they weren't alone. Over jollof rice and plantains at a small restaurant in Lekki, they talked about the future. I've been thinking about going back to school, Folake said. Getting my law degree. We need more women lawyers who understand what we've been through. I've been thinking about writing a book, Amara added. Not just our story, but a guide for other women. How to recognize the signs. How to protect yourself. How to escape. And I've been thinking about my daughter, Chidera said quietly. Both women looked at her in surprise. Not now, but someday. I want to be able to tell her that when her mother made a mistake, when she fell for the wrong man and found herself in an impossible situation, she didn't give up. She fought back. And she helped change things for other women. They raised their glasses of Chapman, a toast to survival, to justice, to the long, hard work of healing. 6 months later, Safe Harbor Initiative had helped 347 women leave abusive relationships. Chidera was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Blessing Okoro won a National Journalism Award for her investigation. And the Facebook group, now called the Survivor Network, had grown to over 5,000 members across West Africa. Chidera never forgot the sound of that slap, the look in Amara's eyes, the moment she realized the man she loved was a stranger. But she also never forgot the moment she decided to fight back, the moment 3 women became allies, the moment they chose courage over fear. Because that's the thing about revenge. The best kind isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about building something so strong, so meaningful, so permanent that their power can never hurt anyone again. And as Chidera stood in front of a room full of university students, telling them how to recognize manipulative behavior, teaching them that love should never hurt, that power should never be abused, she knew that Obinna and Chidera had lost more than their money or freedom or reputation. They'd lost the ability to keep women silent. And that was the greatest defeat of all. So there you have it, a story about 3 women who refused to stay victims, who turned their pain into purpose. If this story resonated with you, if you know someone who needs to hear it, please share this video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us what you learned from Chidera, Amara, and Folake's journey. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need these stories. And remember, if you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, there are resources available. You are not alone. You are not powerless. And just like these women, you can survive and thrive. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.